Yes, sir. I am recording this.
Okay, so let me start it with like entity types. So there are entity type 15 entity types in sales order system order history right now, and inside each entity type there are object types. Okay,
Okay.
Actually,
so
Shiva,
yeah.
mm, you can ask somebody from Invictus team also to join. Talk to Baljinder.
Okay, everything. Just give me a second. I'll ask. Okay, Pankaj is joining the session. So everybody else is on lunch, I guess. So Dinesh asked Pankaj to join it. And anyway, I have already given a KT to their team, like how to start with it. Okay, so Pankaj has joined the session. So yeah, so that is what like we were discussing. Like in a system history, there are 15 entities right now. For every entity, there are different object types. So suppose let's say an example of sales
आपको
order.
मिल गया
So
है.
sales order is an
आपको
entity.
मिल गया है.
Inside sales order, there are
वो
sales order
उनका
notes, sales order
इवनिंग
items. These are the object types in sales order.
ग्रुप में
Sales
तो
order
मेल भेज
itself is an
दीजिए
object type in
ग्रुप
sales
में
order. So entity is basically
डिफरेंट
a
रेस
group
करने
which
के लिए
defines like how
इवनिंग
many
इवनिंग रन करने
types
के
can be
लिए.
there in it. So all the things related to sales order will be in sales order entity. Same goes for truckload. Truckload is an entity, and inside that
आपको
there is a
कीजिए
load
50
request, load
मैं
stops,
60
and all
बोला तो
those
50
things.
ही है.
So this is basically an entity and object relation. Now previously what was happening in SQL, like for every entity there is a column for entity type where you
इधर
save the
है इधर
entity
ही.
type, and for every object type you specify the object type name. So what we did in Elasticsearch,
पहले
we have indexes. So index is basically it resembles a type of database itself. So as same as you say the database in SQL, this is the index. In index you can have different types. So type is basically table in SQL. So it's just like a table. So for every entity type we have created an index, a separate index and a separate index. There are various types for that entity. So what it helps is, like suppose you guys are working on sales order and somebody else was working on truckload. So the request which will go to the indexes will be distributed. So sometimes if we see that truckload is having maximum request and it is taking maximum system time, we can move the index to another server which can distribute the load through this index basis. So that was the idea behind that. So indexes are divided based on entity type, and in every index there are corresponding types, object types, which you say. Am I clear on that?
Yes.
Or any questions regarding this? Got it, right?
Yes, yes. No.
Okay. So I'll just show you a brief and small example of it. This is the sense. This is the same like SSMS, which we use for SQL. This is we use for Elasticsearch. So if you see this truckload system history, it's an index. When I say in truckload system history, I want to get load stops, load book stops. So this is a type, load book stops. So this is an index, this is a type, and inside that if I search, I will get all the documents of load book stocks. So if you can see this source here, there are the fields of the load book stop in it, and what this version correspond to. So suppose there is a version 4 and version 2, version 3, again there is a version 4. So this version is telling us that this load stop with this this document and this document, they both are updated in the same transaction. So that's how we like group the transactions based on versions. Previously the same thing was done by created date, right? So right now we are doing this with versions. And if you search the index itself, so in the index itself there are 29 documents right now. So this is an index with type, piece details, type, version, master. So these are the tables corresponding things. So an index can have multiple types, and every type have different documents. Clear on this part?
Yes, sure.
Okay. So this is what like we are taking care of from the backend side. So what you have to do is quite easy. So like this all Elasticsearch part is the Atlas component which we will be taking care of. I have created a small document like what you guys have to do. So this is all the like behind the scenes what is going on, I have to tell you. Now what you have to do is, previously you were having all the teams were using this service to save the data through data sets. In command center and accounting, I have seen that they are sending a data set to save the system history along with the same information or all these things regarding that. So same thing you have to do. Our service also takes the data set, which will I'll come to it a bit later. So every data set, what you have to do is there should be a primary object ID with name, a primary ID with name of ID itself. This is a bit important thing because like we are grouping the data based on ID, and the code is quite generic, and we have used the dynamic and objects everywhere. So it's a bit important to have this ID field column in the data table. Clear on this? Okay. So consider an example of customer table. So customer table, you have a data table with customer name, and the primary ID for the customer is customer ID in it. So if it is already there, then you can add one more column with ID and pass the same value to it as you are passing for customer ID. Okay.
Okay.
This is the first thing. Second thing is, which is important, is like the data tables which you are sending to the Elasticsearch should have the same name as my POCOs are. So I have created all the POCOs as corresponding which XSD files you are using. It is same as of in system history. So if data table name says sales order, the sales order POCO will be presented in this Elasticsearch also. So this should be taken care of. It is already happening, but if you are creating some new data tables and data set, then you have to like inform me previously, inform me prior to that, so that I can add it.
Okay, suppose system history means customer is there, then table name will be customer. If customer address is there, table name will be customer address, right?
Right.
Okay.
Okay. So these are two things which you have to remember. Now what is required is, you have to include a class input params in your project. This input param is used when you post something to the Atlas component. So it has all the things which can be posted to the Atlas component while HTTP post. Second thing which you have to include is system history config. What this config file used to do, there are 4 switches into it. Okay. So switch 1 is, so it is like, suppose someday you decide to that like we don't want the Elasticsearch to give us the data, we want the SQL back, or we want like both of them to get save the data, because there would be some problem in Elasticsearch which is not identified. Then we will save the data in both of the SQL and Elasticsearch. This is the config key for that. So switch 1 saves, save and get the data from system history table. It will work same as you are working now. So getting and saving the system history into SQL itself. When you switch to 2, it will save and get the data from Elasticsearch. That will be the future corresponding implementation. Switch 3, it will save the data in both Elasticsearch and system history, but get the data from system history table in SQL. And switch 4 is save the data in both Elasticsearch and system history, but get the data from Elasticsearch. So the recommended is switch 4. So what you have to do is, you have to add a key in your web config along with the ID 4, and while saving and getting, you have to check it. I'll show it down. The third thing is version master. So version master having the basic information like updated by ID, version ID, and created date. which you guys are showing on the left hand side. Any question in this?
Yeah. Yes, means this config is your config, right? Web config you mention means
Like this is a
that
class.
is-
So is this class defines basically enum and some functions which check the what is the configuration and where we have to save the data.
Mhm.
So you just have to include this class and you have to add this key in web config along with the value you want to use. So basically recommended is value 4.
web config you are saying that is config, that is Atlas component, right?
No, in your application you have to do this web config settings.
And then as an input parameter I have to send that.
No, you don't have to send it anywhere. Before making calls, you have to check it. So I'll come to it. If you see the down one, saving the system history, right? So what we used to like decide through the system history config that where we need to save the data, right? तो अभी guess कीजिए कि अभी we are not saving the data in system history and Elasticsearch. अभी कल के दिन ये भी हो सकता है there is some problem in Elasticsearch और system history table में SQL में वापस तुमको डाटा सेव करना पड़े, right?
Okay.
तो उस टाइम पे क्या हुआ, अगर खाली Elasticsearch में डाटा जा रहा होता तो उस टाइम तक सब चीजें they all things are like gone if Elasticsearch went down. तो अभी हम क्या करेंगे कि दोनों में सेव करेंगे डाटा, Elasticsearch और system history दोनों में.
Okay.
Okay. So मैं यहाँ पे क्या कर रहा हूँ, it is the same function which you guys were using previously and you guys are using now. You have to check an if condition like system history config dot to save in Elasticsearch.
Okay.
If it is to save in Elasticsearch, then the ESF implementation will be there. Again down you have to check system history config dot to save in SQL table.
Why we have to check here?
Because application wise you have to identify कि हमें कहाँ पे save करना है डाटा, right?
मुझे
देखो हम इस चीज को हम अपने एटलस कंपोनेंट में भी लिख सकते थे, बट द प्रॉब्लम इज
एक मिनट, तुमने सर्विस ये सब सारी सर्विस है, राइट? मींस वी हैव टू कॉल द सर्विस टू सेव एंड एवरीथिंग, राइट?
बट दीज ऑल थिंग्स यू हैव टू इंक्लूड इन योर प्रोजेक्ट फर्स्ट.
Shivang, there is one case.
Okay.
Suppose in this 4 means where you are doing this search for with this switch equal to 4. Here you are telling that save the data in both Elasticsearch and system history.
Right.
Okay, and get data from the Elasticsearch only. If Elasticsearch updation will fail, in that case, what will happen? We have data in the SQL, but we don't have data in the Elasticsearch.
At that
So
time
data will not come.
at that time you came to know that, right? Elasticsearch is down.
Yeah.
That is why you are saving it in both. At that time you have to change the switch to 3. It is only for development mode. Right
Yeah,
now,
I got it. Means you have different services, and based on the switch, I have to call the services, right? Like below, save system history to Elasticsearch. Atlas service is there, right? Means you have different services for save the both, save in the system
मैं
history.
काम करता हूँ, मैं दिखाता हूँ, ठीक है? अभी यहाँ पे हो अविनाश, इनका ये पहले से फंक्शन लिखा हुआ था सेव सिस्टम हिस्ट्री. ऐसा ही एक तुम्हारे पास भी है प्रॉक्सी में, राइट?
Yes.
इसमें तुम सेव सेंड करते हो. अभी मेरे को क्या करना है, बैकअप रखना है हमेशा एसक्यूएल में, ठीक है? क्योंकि वी कैन नॉट टोटली रिलाई ऑन इलास्टिकसर्च. ठीक, उस केस में क्या करेंगे, जब भी कभी सेव सिस्टम हिस्ट्री कॉल हुआ तो इसमें मैंने क्या किया, कहीं से भी कॉल होता है सबसे लास्ट में यही कॉल होता है, सेव सिस्टम हिस्ट्री. तो दिस थिंग वाज प्रीवियसली देयर, लाइक ये रोज वगैरह बनाते हैं, फिर ये कॉल वगैरह करते हैं, ये पहले से ही थी यहाँ पे, ठीक है? मैंने सिर्फ क्या किया, सिस्टम हिस्ट्री कॉन्फ़िग को इंक्लूड किया इसमें, और यहाँ पे इफ और एल्स केसेस, इफ केसेस डाल दिए 2. ठीक है? अभी क्या होगा, अगर तुमने स्विच को 4 सेट किया है तो यहाँ पे आएगा स्विच 4 में देखेगा कि इलास्टिकसर्च में सेव करना है,
समझ गया.
तो इलास्टिकसर्च की सर्विस को भी कॉल करेगा.
ये कोड हमको लिखना है अपने कोड में, राइट?
राइट.
तुम लोगों ने मतलब मैं सोचा कि ये तुम लोग हैंडल किया अपने सर्विस में, एंड वी हैव टू जस्ट सेंड मींस द डेटा एंड वी आर गोइंग टू डिसाइड ओके वेयर वी हैव टू सेव इट.
हाँ, हम ऐसा कर सकते थे, बट द प्रॉब्लम इज कि कल के दिन हो सकता है कि किसी एप्लीकेशन की सर्विस काम करे, किसी को दोनों में सेव नहीं करना हो, किसी को एक ही जगह सेव करना हो. तो इसलिए हमने सोचा कि ये एप्लीकेशन लेवल कॉन्फ़िग रखेंगे, ताकि जिसको एसक्यूएल में सेव करना हो वो एसक्यूएल में सेव कर ले, और जिसको इलास्टिकसर्च में सेव करना हो वो इलास्टिकसर्च में सेव कर ले. ओके?
लेकिन सर इसमें ये हो सकता है ना कि शिपमेंट अगर सेव कर रहा है कोई तो शिपमेंट शुड बी सेव्ड इन द सेम if they are saving in the database they should be all the applications should save into the database. Customer, if suppose we are not using customer, accounting is not using customer, so customer they can save anywhere according to their convenience, but
Right.
sales order and these things means whichever is required means which is using all the application that we have to save into the both into
Right.
the
See,
Elasticsearch.
that is not from the perspective of convenience. That is from the perspective of to start with when we are migrating to Elasticsearch.
Okay.
We should be keeping the data on both the sources as a backup. Once the Elasticsearch is established as a reliable source, it will have its own backup,
Right.
have its own replicated data. So that point onwards, we will turn off the database saves. The point is we are not going to keep the system history, I mean this change history information in database
Okay.
going forward. But
Okay.
for this initial phases of migration, where we will be seeing how Elasticsearch is behaving, what problems are coming, correcting those, in that duration, the data needs to be there in both the places as a backup point of view. So if for some reason Elasticsearch doesn't stores the data, it is there available in the SQL. So from there it can be reapplied on Elastic when it is up.
Okay, sir. Got it.
From that perspective, the teams have to implement it. Now, it will not be that for this feature we will be implementing it in the Elasticsearch only and it will be as far as a single application is concerned, everything needs to go in both places early. Then slowly we will stop pushing the data onto database.
Okay, sir.
So that is clear, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So this is what the conditions which you have to check before saving the data. Now the service information. Service information name is
Shivang, this same question again. Means suppose at the time of request, when we are requesting the data again, means we are getting the data for this history. Okay. So I have switch 4. Okay. And I don't have data in the Elasticsearch, but I have data in the database.
okay.
So in Elasticsearch, somehow due to some reason that saving will fail. So what will happen? I will get data or not? Do you have any?
Now you will get a null. Yeah.
Okay, get a null. But
Yeah.
at that time I have data in the SQL.
Yeah. Then you have to, like, once you get a null, then you can write it in your code, like if there is a null, then nothing comes. Then you have to get the data from SQL. For that there is also a switch in getting the data. If you can see down in my screen, no?
Yeah.
Get data from Elasticsearch, else to get data from SQL table.
Okay.
Okay. So coming back to the saving part. So this is the these are the three files which you have to include: input param, system history config, and version master. Okay. This is the settings which you have to do in web config. Now for saving part, you have to check this if statements to be sure that the data should save in both SQL and Elasticsearch for backup. Now the component information is there is a save system history to Elasticsearch. It takes the same things which you have previously passing to the to your service. So it takes dataset, primary object ID, entity type, application type, unique ID, updated by and updated by ID. Right?
Okay. Yeah.
So if you can see the screen, I am passing it here like this. I have defined a URL, and in input params I have filled all these things, and in HTTP post I am posting the param.
Okay.
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 So once you do it, it will be saved in Elasticsearch. Any questions in saving?
Nope. Dataset is deserializable means is serializable. It's getting serialized.
Dataset is the same thing which you are passing to your service. It's a list of tables itself. What
Okay.
I am doing behind the scene is, once I got the dataset, I will deserialize it to list, saving the list to objects, and then passing the objects to Elasticsearch.
Okay.
Okay. So the same thing which we are doing in this command center, you have to do. Clear on this part?
Yep.
Okay. Now getting the data is like bit more requires more attention to understand. I'll open screenshot so that it will be easy to understand. So this is the view which most of the teams will be implementing from now onwards, which I came to know from Amit sir and Amit Arora sir also. So this is the things which you will be using. So in left hand side you will be having the versions. Version means the change when the change happened, all the dates, and on top of that you will be having the object types. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah. So same way we have to get the data. So I'll just open it again.
यही है भाई.
Okay. So this was the saving part. While getting the data, there are various services to be used. First is get last revision history of object type. So if you can see on the left hand side of my screen, or I'll zoom it out.
No, it's fine.
Okay. So in the accounting itself, there is a history column for the sales order top view, and it show the last modified changes in this small pan, right?
Yeah.
So for this, what you have to do is you have to call this service get last revision history for object type. What it does is whenever you provide it an entity type and the primary object ID and the object type for which history needs to be calculated, it goes to the Elasticsearch. It get the documents where the differences was there, and it match them and give the history back to you. Okay. And the return type will be same as change order, change history or record. So you will have like all the fields along with old value, new value, change date, changed by, and also a flag with it like it is modified, removed, added, and all these things.
Okay.
Okay.
So this will give only the changes item, or it will give all the items?
It will give all the items.
Items.
All the items.
Okay.
Yeah. So if there are 50, like suppose there are 10 fields, out of 10 only 5 were changed. So it will give all the 10 fields
Okay.
with old value and new value for the change 5 fields also. Along with that the modifier. So as per modifier you can color this your values. So if it is removed or modified, then you can color it as green.
Okay, boss.
Right?
Yep.
Okay. And for no change, it will be it will be showing as not changed.
Okay, boss.
Okay. Should I move forward with that?
Anybody else? We are
Should I
good.
continue?
Yep.
Okay. So after that, for other teams, like there is a button for view history details. So once the user clicks on view history detail, it will be in a detailed view, just like you are seeing in my screen. Okay. So once you are done with like showing the last change history for the sales order, when the user clicks on the history detail view, you have to get the versions first. So there will be a call to get the versions for the primary ID. So the Atlas service is get versions by primary object ID. Here you have to pass the entity type and primary object ID. It will give all the versions, like all the changes, transaction changes in that primary object ID. So it will be returning the version master, enable version master. This is the same class which you have added in your requireds, which I have explained previously. Okay.
Okay.
So this version master will be having created date, updated by version ID and all these things. So as per your convenience, you have to show all these things in the left hand side. So whatever you think is required. Like you're talking with other teams, so somebody wants like from the history date there will be in a bracket updated by also will be there name.
Okay.
So as per your requirement, you can show the data from this. So we'll be sending you all the version details regarding this primary object ID from this service class. once you get this service versions for the primary object ID, what you have to do, you have to again call a service to get us the version you want to be shown on the view. So suppose I click on this version. So for this date there will be a version ID. So this you have to pass it here. Get revision history of object for version ID. So it takes the entity type, primary object ID, object type for which you want to get the version. So if I am on this tab, shipment item, you have to send the same object type here along with the version ID. So the person clicked on this. So once you send all these things, I will give you the revision history same in the same way I am giving it on the brief page from the first service. So there will be a enumerable change history record along with all the fields. In old value there will be old value, new value there will be new value, and all the like markups of changed, not changed, modified, deleted. Is it clear?
Yes.
Okay. So this is the basic implementation of system history, which ultimately everyone will be using. Now there is a one case where this command center people showing the view in this way. So what they are doing is they sends the primary object ID, and for the primary object ID they get all the revisions for the primary object ID regardless of the type and anything else. So it's a bit confusing view, but still we have to like accommodate this. So for the fourth service is for command center itself, specific to them. So what they used to do, they used to provide us the entity type, primary object ID, and there are some object types to ignore also, which they don't want to be added in the result. So they send it those things, and we will give them the result in the same way which is displayed on my screen. Okay, Prashant.
Yeah, Shivang. I saw this implementation.
Yeah. So Sujit is already working on it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So he has done most of the changes.
Yes.
So this is specifically for you, and the rest top three are for like all the other teams, which will be implementing the system history. Any question in this, Avinash?
Nope.
Okay, so I have sent this document, so I'll send it once again along with all the required classes. Okay,
Okay. Yeah. That will.
and yeah, you just let me know if there is any problem or any confusion in that. I'll work on it.
Okay. Go to the down in the when we are getting the detail for the particular version in the document itself. So
Document itself.
you are saying that pass with the version ID. Version ID will be there in the version master version master class, right?
Yeah, so whenever you get this version master, version ID and created date will be there.
Okay. So you guys are restoring that date also in somewhere in the somewhere data.
Yeah, we are storing it. So previously Avinash problem क्या हो रही थी? Once I have gone through this previous implementation of system history ना, तो जो ये created date थी ना हमारी system history table में,
Okay.
I don't know in production how it is, but it is SQL generated created date.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay.
तो क्या होता था कि मान लो एक ट्रांजैक्शन में तुमने 50 आइटम अपडेट किए फॉर एग्जांपल, तो क्या होता था उन 50 आइटम के लिए क्रिएटेड डेट अलग अलग हो सकती थी, राइट? देयर विल बी चेंजेस, देयर विल बी लाइक डिफरेंस इन मिली सेकेंड्स, इन सेकेंड्स आल्सो, इट डिपेंड्स ऑन द लाइक हाउ मच द सिस्टम इज एक्टिव एट दैट टाइम.
Okay.
तो क्या होता था कि उस क्रिएटेड डेट के हिसाब से उस ट्रांजैक्शन में कितने आइटम्स अपडेट हुए हैं उसको आइडेंटिफाई करना बहुत मुश्किल हो जाता था, है ना? एक प्रॉब्लम तो ये थी, और एक प्रॉब्लम ये थी कि सोचो कि बहुत ही रेयर सिनेरियो में दो लोगों ने एक साथ अलग अलग मशीन से लॉगिन करके एक ही चीज को चेंज किया. So at that time it shows it as a single transaction, जबकि वो दो अलग अलग ट्रांजेक्शन थे, तो दो अलग अलग सिस्टम से हुए थे. तो उस केस के लिए भी क्रिएटेड डेट प्रॉब्लम करती है. तो rather than like going from the created date, हमने एक वर्जन आईडी का कॉन्सेप्ट बनाया. ये वर्जन आईडी ये एक तरीके से ट्रांजैक्शन आईडी मान लो इसको, ट्रांजैक्शन आईडी मान लो इसको नाम बस वर्जन आईडी है, उसको ट्रांजैक्शन आईडी मान लो. तो हर ट्रांजैक्शन में जितने भी आइटम्स सेव होते हैं उन सब की ट्रांजैक्शन आईडी सेम होती है. ठीक है?
And in that case, if two different user update on the same time, then transaction ID will also
Be different,
be different.
right?
Yeah.
ठीक है। तो ये सब प्रॉब्लम्स थी इसमें, जिसकी वजह से अभी ये हमने वर्जन आईडी का कॉन्सेप्ट लेके आए। तो आई हैव टेस्टेड इट वंस फ्रॉम माय साइड, सो ऑल इज वर्किंग फाइन। अगर उसके अलावा भी कोई चेंजेस होगा तो, और कोई ऐसा ऑब्जेक्ट टाइप हो विच इज नॉट लाइक which you guys are using and which is not included in Elasticsearch, just let me know, I'll include it.
Okay.
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 So this is the thing, I'll send you the document of this implementation document along with the required classes. So 3 classes you have to include, and you have to just take care of these things because ID is very important to be there in the documents. That is the only way we can match the documents between the versions.
Okay. Same ID whatever we have in the table in the primary key, right?
या प्राइमरी आईडी, दिस वाज कस्टमर आईडी है, तो कस्टमर आईडी अगर पहले से ही है उस टेबल में तो आईडी नाम से एक और कॉलम डाल के उसमें वैल्यू पास कर।
ठीक है। ओके।
ठीक है। तो एनी क्वेश्चंस फ्रॉम एनीबॉडी? So I think we are clear on this, right?
Yes. So one question sir here. They have started implementation means ENIAC team. So is there any means timeline when we have to complete in this R57 or where? I am asking this sir. So we should also start implementing this.
I think you guys can start on it. Because anyway we'll have to store it in both the places. So at least we'll get to know with respect to the data. At least the storing part we can start.
Okay.
So that the data gets accumulated on both. And we don't need to do everything at once. We can start with one object once. I think sales order is being done by, I mean, ENIAC team from the truckload point of view they are doing.
Okay.
From sales perspective,
We can
do
start.
the accounting.
Okay sir.
Actually, sir, we means we have it
See, basically what
timeline.
we need to do for this is we should do it as a parallel activity with our current developments. And then after establishing everything in maybe 1 or 2 releases, then we can, after verifying in the background things are working correctly, then we can just enable it so that it won't even look like a release.
Okay.
So we can develop it one. I don't know, ENIAC team is probably taking a harder approach. They are directly implementing it. I think what we should do is in this development, we should implement it and keep this as a backup as thing is going on, and keep verifying the data on production regularly. If there are any issues we have seen, then we can correct those meanwhile. So that way it will not be like a new release feature, at least from our perspective. We would have already accumulating the data for 1 or 2 releases, so we'll know what's the pattern going on, and we would have already fixed some of the issues what we have seen. So when the actual switch on production, when it will happen, then the users will not find much issues. So considering that, we should do this development, not as a single release. We should try to change everything at once and try to see the result how it is. That will not be a good idea. Take one or two entity, what you can do it parallelly in your iteration, and whatever is existing behavior of your histories, that will remain as it is. It will not be switched on from the display perspective.
Okay sir.
It will be switched on only from the, I mean, from the data accumulation perspective, collections perspective, we will keep it on.
Sir, we are also doing this only for the truckload because this,
You are doing it for the users.
yeah,
That
yes,
is the difference.
yeah,
What I am suggesting to all this to you guys is, don't do it for the users. first implement it, verify things, how things are there, verify it yourself by looking into the production data on a regular basis after it goes on production, identify the issues, fix those things, and then once we are confident enough that it is doing everything correctly, then we open it up for the users. Because see, the problem is if we say we are implementing this new technique for storing the system history, now right now system history is having problem. Some users say users do not trust it anyway because it does not show all the information accurately. So if you just develop it and push it to show to the user that we have done a new implementation and maybe this will work. So this we did not say maybe this will work. And we are saying that we have done a new implementation, then in order to gain the trust, we should have things, everything confirmed by us first. Otherwise, we will spend 1-2 months implementing it. Again, the results will be similar. That sometimes data is coming, sometimes data is not coming. Sometimes it is showing who is the user, sometimes it is not showing, and there is no benefit. Again, users will lose trust. So that's why these guys have developed it with both the approaches. That it should store it in the database also and should store it in Elasticsearch also, so that we have backup of data. So at least we can, as per the data what is getting stored, because right now if I tell that probably the system history which is getting saved from command centers, that is almost not correct. It is not recording the changes correctly. So if you are just simply thinking that by replacing this method to this method, the implementation would go correct, no. This system history tracking is totally coding job. Users are not taking any action, so we have to decide what objects have actually changed by the user actions and record those things from everywhere from the system where it is getting changed. Okay, so that's why it would be better we take it as parallel activity, develop it, keep the data, push it on production, so the data collection starts happening on Elasticsearch. And then we review the data, what is there in Elasticsearch and what is there in the database, and as per that and as per what's showing on the records, we can identify whether it is recording everything correctly or not. Because if you are not implementing a collection of data and you are updating the data, so obviously it will not come in anyway. It will not come in Elasticsearch, it will not come in the database, and those changes will not show up whenever you are trying to show. So by implementing this new method, that problem is not going to get solved. If you think just by implementing this new method, all the changes will start reflecting, that's not going to happen. That the collection is a manual step which has to be encoded in the code everywhere whenever there is a data change. So I don't know, Prashant, I don't think that would be a good idea that you guys take it right now. And if you guys have taken only this as your output for the R57 release, then maybe yes. But if you're doing all other things also and this is a sub part of your iteration, then I don't think that implementing this would solve the system history problems right now what is there.
So we are doing only for the truckload perspective.
Even if you do it only from the truckload perspective, do you Okay, do you know or do you believe that every changes made by the user is getting tracked in right now in database?
No.
Then if you know that it is not happening,
Hmm.
then just by replacing the existing method with this method is not going to solve that problem, right?
Yes, sir. Sir, so for that purpose, we are adding the extra means columns there, which we got a requirement for a specific customer. So for and we are saving in the database also. We are not totally rely on this method only for this time.
I am not saying that, you're not understanding. You are trying to map it with what requirement you have got and what I am saying.
Yeah.
See, there is a implementation gap
Okay.
in the current implementation of system history.
Hmm. Yes, sir.
I do not think that every user changes are being recorded in system history right now.
Yes, sir.
So if it is not being recorded just by replacing this method, still it will not get recorded.
Hmm.
Because this
नहीं, कल
method
देखेंगे.
is what it is doing is it
कल
is
देखेंगे.
trying to simplify the
फिक्स हो
object
गया है ना?
structure from the existing structure. The second problem this is trying to solve is pushing these changes from database to Elasticsearch, so the management of this huge amount of data becomes easier
मेरे
for
को अभी
us,
कुछ चेंज नहीं करना तुम,
because
ठीक है ना?
managing that 900 GB system history database is becoming very much trouble. We cannot delete the data, we cannot archive the data, it's just going there and we are running out of space. So that problem it is trying to solve, and it is trying to solve uh, the usage, how
हाँ.
the different object models what we have, that it is trying to uniform into single model, so that representation becomes same from all the places.
चेक रहेगा एड्रेस
Only
चाहिए.
these three problems this new approach is trying to solve.
यस.
If the problem in the current approach in command center or global or wherever it is, if the problem is the data collection not happening, that will still not happen if you have not taken care of that collection part.
Yes, sir.
Okay, because even with this implementation there is no uh, inbuilt rule which can track there is a change in the data happening, so this should get collected. That rule is not there. So until unless you write in the code to collect the data, it's not going to get collected. The change is not going to get collected. So now you guys need to think from that perspective that how there are all the different places where the data collections are happening,
Hmm.
how you guys should introduce. If it is not happening, then you guys need to introduce it there. And there are a lot of things which is happening directly in the database.
Yeah.
So all that, how if there is some information you are directly updating in the database, there is no way that
You
it
can
is going to
try.
come as change history.
Yes, sir.
Okay,
Yes,
so
sir.
it is not an easy problem to fix.
Yeah.
And it cannot be fixed by maybe in 1 or 2 releases. We will have to see. That's why I want you to convey that to Kyle. The problem is actually the system history collection problem is a bigger problem.
Yes, sir.
We have to identify what is the actual what user wants to see. When they want to see actually whenever any single value whenever it got changed,
Hmm.
so when it got changed, what it was earlier, what it is now, and who changed it. That information is what is needed for them.
Yes, sir.
Now they don't know how the system does it. So it is solely a technical problem which needs to get resolved. It is not a business requirement problem. It is nothing to do with business requirement. Business requirement is only this much. Any information getting changed in the system, when it is getting changed, by whom it is getting changed, what was its earlier value and what is the new value, that should get recorded as a change history. That is a business problem we have. So the solution here is, if not complex, it is more laborious. You'll have to find it out wherever, what all the places the changes are being happening, and is there something in the database which is getting changed because of the collective input coming from the system. If such activities are happening, then those activities needs to get out of the database, and that the whole solution approach needs to be rethink how it needs to be recorded. Either you keep it there in the database, change the return back what was the old value, what is the new value, and send it to Elasticsearch from the application for getting saved. Okay, Shivang, I have only one thing here.
Yes, sir.
So right now the structures what you guys have made,
Yeah.
are those generic structures or specific?
While saving the data in Elasticsearch,
Yeah.
yeah, it is like it is not specific. Like you can anytime add your new fields in that.
No, no.
Yeah.
But even from the data perspective, is it specific or generic?
They
Uh,
are taking data sets, sir, data table and data sets. So whatever the column name is there, that will be the field name, and whatever the value is there, that will be the value.
right.
So you can say it is generic, sir. A data
It's
set,
not
है.
generic.
A data set is flexible, sir, right?
No, I mean, what is the structure of object which you are passing to save in Elasticsearch?
Data set.
It is, yeah, it is while you are pass like while you will call the Atlas component, you will pass a data set. While we will save it to Elasticsearch, we will pass the list of models to them.
Okay.
So these models are specific models, sales order, number like that, or this is a generic model?
No, no, they are specific.
Okay, then I don't think so.
Mm-hmm.
Problem with the specific model is
Yeah,
this:
that will.
whenever new information comes into the system,
Mm-hmm.
the whole thing has to change from front to end.
Okay. Like,
That's why when I talked to you earlier,
yeah.
I told you, right, that we should try to at least the information what is going into Elasticsearch,
Mm-hmm.
that should be stored as generic.
Yeah, actually, sir, but we have to every time specify the schema of the document which what we are going to save in the Elasticsearch.
See, that is before the saving part.
Right.
Before the saving, see, you will receive a specific object, that is fine. But then from that specific object, you should generalize it as a storage perspective. The way we show there, right? Uh, right now, the command center,
Right.
as it shows the information,
Hmm.
that is a generalized
Way.
way,
Hmm.
and that is how I think it should get stored.
Actually,
Because
sir,
then the retrieval of the data and the conversion of that data to representable format, that's a different thing.
right.
That should not happen inside. I mean, that would be dependent upon each new object which is coming up.
Hmm. Right.
Because that is structure, if you store it like that, that structure makes it generic. You can at any point of time you can introduce a new property
Right.
and it won't matter.
Right. Actually, sir, we like me and Amit Roda, we talked about it, but there is some things like which he was not feeling good with. So there are a lot of processing included in this and all these things. So that's why we thought that we should take this approach to having a schema for that. So what we thought is that anyway, like the teams which will be saving the data in the Elasticsearch or system history, they are already having the data sets along with them, which are predefined XSD files.
See, data sets, if you're taking data set, that is another problem.
Okay.
And why I'm telling that is data set would be another problem because the introduction, I mean, as long as the object doesn't change, it's fine.
Right.
The moment it changes, the moment a new property is introduced, I think it's going to cause problem.
While being in dataset or in Elasticsearch?
I mean, the changes has to be there in multiple places then. You have to change the data set every time there is a new property change.
Right.
So currently also I have to send the previous data and the change data both.
No, you have to just send the current one.
Current
So
one.
the dataset will, yeah. Because previously anyway you have said previously. right?
Yes. Okay. The only problem I am seeing, sir, means somebody if they are sending suppose 20 properties for a sales order and we are sending 21 properties, so that will cause issue if we are using a specific model for the sales order.
Yeah, I mean that is one problem, right? See, and the uh, there are multiple places in the systems where not all the information is getting changed at once. Only one or two fields may be getting changed. Okay, there we specifically know only these two fields we are trying to update. But even for that, I mean, what do you guys expect right now? To send all the fields or only those two fields?
No, we expect to send a data table. So data table will having
Table with only two columns or with all the 15 columns of sales order?
whatever you will be sending, so it will be fine for us. So if you send the two columns, only two columns will get saved. If you send us 12, then 12 columns will get saved. If the other columns are null, in that case.
Okay. How it will be saved here? If suppose your model doesn't have that property, which model I
That's
am?
what I'm saying. Say, suppose sales order. Right now, sales order has 30 columns, right?
Right.
Now, at the creation of sales order, those 30 columns data will come.
Right.
Okay. Now there is a action dispatch,
Right.
dispatch of shipment information. Now that action is probably going to update four fields:
Okay.
the status, who is updating it, and that's it.
Right.
Two, three fields.
Right.
Next time, I send the data table with three columns.
Okay. So and now every time when you send it as a data set, right?
But the data set with three columns.
Uh, hmm. No, at that time what will happen is the same object type which is in Elasticsearch, it will save it as whole.
Now, what I'm talking about is the input to Elasticsearch method.
Yeah.
What I'm supposed to send at this update.
You have to send the whole document again. The whole sales order again along with the change
Can
value.
you share what's the input for the service right now?
Right. Yeah. So while saving, this is the input. It's a data set of data tables.
So sir, if they are saving as a model, so suppose I am sending two columns, then only
That's that tables.
yeah means
Yeah, we depend on tables itself. Yeah.
You guys are replicating the current behavior.
No, sir. Actually, see, what is the problem with the behavior? Like what you were telling is, I'll tell you. Suppose there is a sales order where you save the 42 columns initially. Okay. Again, when you send the 3 updated columns, only you save the 3 updated columns. Now, suppose there are 30 updates to the sales order. The same structure will continue again and again, right? Right. Initially, when this insertion was happened, so till that there is 30 versions to that. So 30 versions will be there. Now, suppose somebody wants the 27th version to fetch, right? Now what I have to do is I have to go all prior to the primary object ID of the sales order where it was created. I have to get it. Then I have to first I fetch this one. There is a one call in Elasticsearch to fetch this one. Again I will make a call to fetch the another one and make the changes in the previous one. So these are the modified fields. The 42 version field will change with this modified field. Again there will be a call in Elasticsearch to get the third version, and again change it into this one. So right now if there are 30 updates, so approximately the calls to Elasticsearch will be 30 from my service end, right? And plus the processing, which is like replacing the modified value. First I have to compare like which fields were changed, and then I have to replace them, right? So this will be like more time consuming. So what this approach will do is, first, yeah, it will anyway remove the dependency of schema less, but ultimately it will increase the time of processing. And why we are moving to Elasticsearch is like, also we are concerned with the data and space also, but we are also concerned with the processing time. So this thing is there. And right now 900 GB data is there in production, I guess. So what I assume is, once Elasticsearch, once all the data of 900 GB will be moved to Elasticsearch, it will be not more than 200 GB or 900 GB. The same data we will save here.
I mean, so okay, tell me again. Go back to my example.
Yes, sir.
Now, when I sent you, when the second time this
Yeah.
update is happening, which is updating three columns only,
Right.
what do I need to send to Elasticsearch?
In your case,
Yes.
you have to send only the change fields, right?
So a data set with three fields.
Yeah, that's what you are telling, right? We have to send it like this.
I am asking you what you are expecting right now.
Okay, what we are expecting? We are expecting all the fields, all fields. Again, so I'll just show you it in document itself in a working example. So, so let's take an example of, okay, load book or load book stop. So suppose this was the version 3 when the user had sent the company name, contact name, and all these things, right? So if you see at version 4, which is this top one, so all the fields which are even not changed, he has to send this also, because they are sending the data tables to us. The city, state code, it is not changed. So we are expecting the current state of the document at that point of time when you are calling the Elasticsearch service. Not yet. Okay, just give me a second. Uh, sorry.
And what you are storing in the Elasticsearch then?
The whole document itself, sir. This is the Elasticsearch. This is the Elasticsearch database, which I am sharing the screen. So if I These are, if you look at this one, or if you look at this one, right? So this was the previous update on the company name 1231. So he sent all the fields. So once again, if it is updated, he will send us all the fields including that. Got it, sir?
So it's the same approach right now. What is there right now? The only exclusion to that is don't don't expect the whole. I mean, So that is exactly what is happening right now also.
Right now what is happening is like in the system history we are saving the old value, new value, right, and primary object id, comma, created date, and all these things updated by. So suppose in a transaction there are 5 items which are updated. So for every item all this information will be there. So there will be 5 times,
Yeah.
right? But in our implementation what will happen, if in a transaction there are 5 items, there will be only 5 rows with new value itself. And for this transaction all these common things will be there in a separate table with only one entry. So total there will be 6 entries with this one column. So if you see the old value, and we are not using the old value because we are comparing this with this. So old value we have removed, modified field also you are saving, modified also that we have removed. All this common information, created date, updated date, we have removed. So only we are saving the document current values of the document at that point of time. So it will like trim the space to 1/4, I guess.
See, the problem, what I say is, and the problem was the existing implementation was this only.
Right.
And even though you are updating only one field, you
Mhm.
have to acquire the whole object and send it to for saving.
Right. That is the thing, like we have to mm, see if we avoid this at the and at the point of showing and all these things, no, it will be like it will be difficult to process it all and show it. It will be more time consuming to do all these things.
See, I mean, what I think what you guys can do is, anyway, right now you are saying that, uh, see, instead of expecting applications to send the whole object,
Mm-hmm.
you get only the new information, and from the previous copy what is there in ES,
Mm-hmm.
take the old copy, make the object structure, and on top of that apply this one.
Yeah, so that we can also do, but consider an example like suppose the name is there. Okay, so name only name was changed from Shivang to Amir, right? And suppose the name only was changed along with 9 fields will remain same. I will call the Elasticsearch, get the data, implement this name change. In between, my service is used by other peoples also, and system history is something which will be having the frequent hits on the Elasticsearch.
ठीक
So
है?
in between अगर किसी ने उस object को और change कर दिया, while I got the document here and while I am making the changes, somebody has updated it 30 times.
See, that option is not there in the system.
No, no, that is
Same
not.
object cannot be updated by two people
Yeah, at
at the
the
same
same
time.
time. Yes.
Uh, but if truckload is there and if truckload is opened by two different users,
Only one of them can change it.
Only one.
Yeah, sure. Only one user can change that one in a single time.
See, that goes against the basic consistency of data. Because if you are showing a user one set of information and allowing another user to update that information, then the user who is viewing right now information is actually seeing the wrong information.
right?
So for that reason, system does not allow it.
So is it like till the time I will get the document and uh, make the required changes, there will be no update on it.
Not on the
That
system history side. As long as the database is concerned,
hmm.
other person cannot change the data until one request has been completed. The other person has to take the updated data and then only he can make the changes there. And that should be followed up in any way throughout the system, whatever information it may be.
Okay. So if like okay, you guys are already handling it with two different systems if something is there, right?
See, that is not the solution Elasticsearch is supposed to solve. That problem should get solved in the applications if it is there.
Right.
Elasticsearch cannot solve that problem, and it should not try to solve that problem anyway.
Hmm. Okay.
If some application is not checking for two users simultaneously updating the same information, that is the problem on those applications, and they have to sort it out. Elasticsearch anyway cannot sort it out. It is a subsidiary system which is supposed to just keep the chain information.
ओके, ठीक है सर। तो मैं एक काम करता हूँ, अभी अमित सर से इस बारे में बात करता हूँ, थोड़ा सर से, दैट दीज आर द थिंग्स व्हिच वी नीड टू टेक केयर ऑफ, and try to push him in a meeting sometime soon or tomorrow.
What I was thinking is we are making a generalized input
Mm,
to Elasticsearch, so that because for the saving purpose
mhm.
it is not really needed to know the structure.
Yes.
You just need to know what is the old value and what is the new value, and then save it.
Either he can save the new values also. No, it will not work. I was thinking what they are doing, they are just taking the column name from the data set and they are storing the Elasticsearch from that.
Because effectively what you are doing is you are making a copy of each transaction.
Right. Hmm.
And when display point, you have seen how the displays are there, right?
Right.
So for the display point of view, we need to show the old value and the new value.
Right.
Even with this structure, the client applications have to get all the revisions and make that format.
Right.
If you are going to store it like this, you are always storing the new values only,
Hmm.
right?
Right.
So the applications are showing a comparison layout.
Yeah, that is what.
Shows what is the old value and what is the new value.
Right.
So in order to make that, you have to anyway get all the reasons.
We have to get only 2 revisions till then, sir. जैसे अभी suppose you want the 4th and 2nd to be compared. At version 4, what is the history? So prior to that is there is a version like 3rd update. Suppose this is the 3rd update. This is the 1st, this is the 2nd, this is the 3rd update. So for you want the 3rd update revision history, so we will get only 2 documents, right?
Yes, I think. If you want third, means you will get the second one and third one.
Right.
So previous one will be the second and changes to third.
I mean, you guys have created a service from that point of view that at every request, current and previous versions changes are needed and that needs to be sent.
Right.
I mean, that is fine, but I think what, instead of relying upon, I mean, instead of using the specific structures, I would say we should go with generic structure, at least for storing
Yes.
data point.
ओके सर, ठीक है सर। तो मैं एक काम करता हूँ, फिर आई लाइक रिकंसिडर दिस थिंग विद अमित अरोड़ा and we'll discuss on like generalized structure with I think in the next meeting.
Because see, the problem, because that is the problem, right? If I say, suppose till X release, sales order has 10 columns.
Right.
After X release, sales order has 15 columns.
Okay.
So I'm not getting how And the data set what you guys have made,
Yeah.
that's what I'm asking. The data set, how many columns needs to have?
So we already in applications had the data sets. So if I just show you my service,
That is
we
overnight. We don't use data sets anymore.
okay,
Or at least
that
it
is that is anyway good news. Like if you pass us the list of object itself, then we'll directly push it to Elastic Search. So right now, if you pass us the data sets, what we have to do is we have to convert the data set to list itself again. So basically, what is the structure of the objects in the Elasticsearch is same as the list here. It is same like DTO models uh, in our this project
see, that's what
architecture.
I'm saying. That see, you are making all these models,
Right,
so you have to keep up with it.
right.
Every time there is a change in any information in the system, you have to update here.
Right. Just
Why
setting up.
do we want to do that?
Hmm. Then sir, how will we push the data in Elasticsearch in a generic way? Suppose we have to push 3 columns and 4 columns. So the column name and all these things should
Generic way is this: the object type, the field name, field old value, field new value, and the date, and who's updating that.
right.
That's the generic structure.
तो सर अगर मान लीजिए अभी सेल्स ऑर्डर में अगर अभी 10 फील्ड्स हैं इनिशियली
So you will
तो
get 10 rows, not 10 columns.
10 रोज बट नहीं हम हमें एक्चुअल में 10 डॉक्यूमेंट्स ही मिलेंगे सर क्योंकि हर डॉक्यूमेंट क्योंकि हर रो का राइट 10 रोज होंगे तो 10 रोज के हिसाब से इलास्टिक में 10 डॉक्यूमेंट्स होंगे राइट और ये एक सेल्स ऑर्डर के अपडेट पे होंगे अभी मान लीजिए अगर बहुत सारे सेल्स ऑर्डर उसी सेल्स ऑर्डर में बहुत सारे अपडेट्स होते हैं तो एवरी टाइम वी हैव दिस डॉक्यूमेंट काउंट इंक्रीज्ड राइट
Yes.
so first thing will be like how we will club all these things we have to have something to club that these are the 10 documents of sales order with priority 1 primary version id 1
And version
and
ID will also be there. Version will be there. For each row there will be same version only.
right
And even we do not need the old value. We can just keep new values because that I think that idea is fine. You store only new values, but so that way you can make it very flexible that the applications who are storing, who are updating the data, they can provide only the information which is updating.
see they can like provide us first they have to like applications have to like in accounting you are doing it like this I think that you have to compare that what are the updated thing and you have to send the updated things only in Elasticsearch in system history right only the updated items are you saving right now
No, no, entire thing.
so again a service need to be created to check all these things you have to fetch all the data from the database you have to check what are the fields which are changed and then you have to make a set of it again
No,
I
same
think
logic will still be applicable.
which one sir
As you guys are saying, at the time of display, you take only last two revisions.
right
From that last two revisions, you can make out same way it can be made. Two revisions we will take,
hmm.
and the base copy we can take.
Okay.
See, even yes, in this case you will have to aggregate all the revisions,
Yeah.
as you were telling me. But even in that case, it is not going to be that much uh, processing, because for a transactions for a sales order, at most it is going to get modified 20 times.
Okay.
It's not going to be 1,000 times.
किसने दिया?
But like in sales order, it can be true. Like Amazon was telling that some things were there which used to get even updated for 1 year itself also. I don't know the name of the object
See,
types and all.
any
And some
object.
carrier rating and all,
मेरा
rates and all.
क्यों? किस लिए?
So there will be much of the versions with that.
There will be much versions of that, but after a period,
Oh my god.
older versions will become obsolete. See,
Okay.
that's what I have discussed earlier also, and I told you guys. Even Aurora was telling the same thing, that after a point, it can we can uh,
कब करोगे तुम टाइप
restore
कंप्लीट?
a full copy
अभी मैं कर
again,
सकता हूँ, मीटिंग में हूँ,
and
मैं
on
कर सकता हूँ.
that point onwards, that becomes the base copy.
Right.
क्यों?
Obviously, therefore, that we
F1
can
में क्यों
identify
है?
what rule we should follow, but we can do it this way. So after a point of time, or maybe after we say, like, let's say for simplicity right now, let's say if any objects goes beyond 100 updates, restore a final full copy of on the 101th update, and that becomes the base copy.
हम्म. अच्छा, एक और एग्जांपल लीजिए. जैसे सेल्स ऑर्डर आइटम का एग्जांपल है. ठीक है, सेल्स ऑर्डर आइटम्स कैन हैव मल्टीपल आइटम्स.
Yeah.
Okay. So
Same thing
suppose
applies to everything.
then how will we like okay, we are saving the field name, old value, new value, right? So there are 5 items, and in item 1 with ID 1.
See, identifiers are anyway going to be needed. I am saying generalize the structure. So primary object ID right now what we have, that will still be there in the generalized structure.
Okay. I got it.
Identifier of the records will anyway need to be part of the general, but those are anyway generic fields.
Right.
Those are not a specific field to any object. Primary object ID will be there for all the objects whichever we are collecting.
Right.
It is anyway generic information which you guys are keeping. What I am telling against is just using the same, I mean the structured approach what is being used right now. The problem in that approach, that's why I am saying.
Right. Okay.
And see, the one bigger problem is this also. Ki as and when the complexity of the system increases, the more objects getting introduced, keeping up with the history takes second priority.
Right.
That is the biggest problem with the history. Whenever somebody says, I want this new information to be flowing in the system, now we need to do this. So system history becomes, first of all, it goes out of the criteria from that implementation, because anyway this is a secondary subsystem.
Right.
So how we can keep this subsystem isolated out of the application changes as far as possible.
Okay.
Okay, so I mean you can